There we go. That's us live, folks. Hello, everyone. You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us. Something a bit different tonight, I think. For this last sort of 3 months, accountants have been flat out doing Facebook Lives, giving people advice and information, and pushing information out to the businesses that might need it. This isn't that. It's we'll be covering lots of stuff, but this is more I suppose a recollection from 3 accountants in Northern Ireland of their experience of the last 3 months in both being a business owner and a business advisor. So I'll tell you what, guys, if we go around and we'll let you introduce yourselves and give everybody a bit of a flavour of what you're about, and then we'll kick off. So Claire, do you want to go first?
I'll go first. So I'm Claire Stewart. I am partner in Cartmill, Stewart & Co, and we're based in Lisburn. We've been on the go from 2014, and there's 5 of us as a team. We like to think of ourselves as very forward thinking, just like you guys, and we work a lot in the cloud and do digital, really keen on apps, and we're 0 partners.
Super. And Martin?
My name is Martin Gilchrist, and I'm from Gilchrist & Co Chartered Accountants. We are a small practice of about 300 clients, and our primary focus is looking after professional people who work for and by themselves. So our clients would be the likes of barristers and doctors and music producers and people in the creative industries, pastors, but the common feature is that they tend to be individuals working by themselves. Our practice grows effectively when those clients grow. So we do have clients with now who have up to 15 staff, but that's because they've grown in the time they've been with us. We only offer 4 very simple services: self-assessment, corporation, VAT and payroll. And that's us in a nutshell.
Super. And for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm Adrian Markey from Adrian Markey Chartered Accountants, based in Warrenpoint. Team of 2, started in about 2016, moved to these premises just over a year ago. And I suppose much like you guys, forward-thinking, cloud-based, or mainly cloud-based accountants, dealing with a bit of a nebulous type of clients. So everything from farmers to hairdressers to coffee shops to cryptocurrency and blockchain developers and all sorts of things. So, but all that stuff's just a sort of a intro. It's not really important why we're here. It is to an extent, but I suppose when I pitched this idea to the guys, it was on the back of an envelope, sort of, do you want to just go on Facebook and talk about the last 3 months and what the next 3 months might hold? And we're going to stay pretty true to that. So there's not a whole lot of structure or room for people to go off on all sorts of tangents. And I suppose what we want to get is, listen, none of us have ever seen anything like this before. It's probably as going to be as big a blow to the economy as maybe 2008, but this is different. It's a totally different, strange feel to it. So I suppose I just wanted to get people's thoughts and feelings on coronavirus so far, where we're at now with businesses starting to unlock doors and reopen, and then as what the future holds. So both from the perspective of you guys running your practices and from the perspective of your clients as well. So I suppose maybe to start off, Martin, what was the sign, if there was one, that coronavirus was here, was serious, and was going to affect you and or your clients? Was there a moment or a few things maybe that...
We knew it was sort of coming. I can remember being at a coffee meetup with a couple of friends of mine that you may know, James Perry, who's also an accountant, and Kevin Young and Declan Barry. And it was on the 31st of January, and we were having a coffee in Saintfield, and we were talking about Corona and how serious it was going to be. And I thought it was going to be serious. But the moment I realized, the Northern Rock moment, I suppose, if anybody remembers back to the previous start of the Great Recession, the Northern Rock moment was when BMI went down. And I can remember sitting watching that in the news, and I turned around to Michelle and I said, Michelle, this is it. It's get your life jackets. We're going down. we're going down. And it seemed that there was a very quick series of events between that and the pubs closing. And when they closed the pubs, the world shut down. Yeah. I don't know if it was because the pubs closed, but that seemed to be the moment for me when they said, right, the pubs are closing. The next day, everybody was at home. The roads were empty. You didn't know whether they had, before that, everybody was going out and they're still going. As a matter of fact, I think there was panic buying and stuff going on. If we remember, right back, toilet rolls. Remember toilet rolls were in short supply. That all seems like so long ago.
No, it doesn't.
But definitely the moment it really struck me was BMI going down, because when a organization or a company like that goes, it's normally the canary in the mine. It might have survived, possibly struggled on if this hadn't come along, but effectively something like COVID coming along, it's basically the tide going out, and we get to catch everybody who doesn't have their swimming trunks on. You're in trouble if you're in trouble.
Yeah. What about you, Claire? Was there any sort of moment that this all started? What was the kickoff that made it start feeling serious?
There was a few things that happened. So the first weekend in March, there was me and a few of my girlfriends actually in Bath for the weekend, and I remember my business partner saying to me at the time, "Should you be going there? Like, this whole coronavirus thing." And I was like, "Why would I not go? I'm going on the girls' weekend." But I remember the whole time I was there, seeing a couple of people with masks on, and actually probably thinking in my head, "What are those guys all about? Like, this is no big deal." Then the following week, I was speaking at an event for Chartered Accountants Ireland. And I remember people saying to me, "I'll not shake your hand, I'll not give you a hug, because of the whole virus thing." And I thought, okay, fair enough. But I still kind of thought, these guys are taking this really seriously, and it's no big deal. And maybe I was living in a bubble or burying my head in the sand. And it was only really on the 13th of March, when we decided to close the office and send everybody home with their laptops, that I started to think, okay, this is starting to have an impact. But most of all, I have two young children, 5 and 7. And it was really whenever they closed the schools, and I thought, what? Yes. They're actually closing the schools, and I'm responsible for their education as well as trying to run a business. So it was really at that point in time that I thought, this is serious. And just like you, Martin, businesses just started to drop like flies, started to close. And I remember a couple of my clients getting in touch, and for them, it was almost like they were closing their doors for the last time. That's how they felt about it, that they felt, will we ever open again? And that was whenever the whole seriousness of the matter started to come. And at that stage, you'll remember that there was no guidance from the government with furlough, there was no grants in place. So it really was a time of panic. I think I cried for the first couple of weeks, not because I was worried about myself or my personal life or my family, but I was really worried about my clients. I thought, these guys are in trouble here, and I am the one that's going to have to direct them. And I didn't feel strong enough at that time myself to be able to encourage them, because I felt a bit weak too. So it was a kind of an accumulation of things, but definitely I felt the seriousness of it after a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I was supposed to speak at an event for the Chamber of Commerce in Warren Point. I think it was on the 11th of March, and I got a phone call that morning from Mark Kelly, the president of the Chamber of Commerce. And I think maybe the day before, there were a couple of cases around Northern Ireland, and it was it was getting a lot of traction in the news and things like that. So, and there was a feeling. There was kind of that angst or awkwardness, just like you were saying, Claire, about, people weren't shaking hands. Even that automatic reflex of going to shake people's hands, people were kind of standing off from each other and that. So Mark rang me that morning and said, "I think we're going to have to pull this event." And I said, "No, look, fair enough. We didn't want to bring 20 or 30 or 40 people into a room together, sitting close to each other and potentially get something, because we didn't know anything about it really at that stage. We knew, it had done its damage, further east, and it was working its way over here. And as well as that, the venue that we were using was a local business, and we really didn't want to, bring it onto their premises and possibly be responsible for them being closed down. That was the first moment. And then it was, I think, on the 16th, there was one of my clients who runs a couple of coffee shops, and he had to post up on Facebook just with St. Patrick's Day being the next day. He just didn't want to deal with it, because they would always be ram packed on St. Patrick's Day, and he didn't want to put his staff in that position. He didn't want to put his family in that position. He didn't want his customers having to second guess themselves. So those couple of moments were kind of the start of it, and the start of, I'm sure it was the same for you guys, the start of the phone calls and the questions and what do we do? Do we close? Do we stay open? How do we navigate through that? The next phase then was from people started to close up until the government stepped in with help. I think was the worst, because there was nothing. There were no answers. There were like, close if you want to close, social responsibility and all the rest. But how are you going to pay the bills? How are you going to get by this next few months? What's in the bank, etc. So how was that? I suppose it was almost a 2-3 week period before support started to be announced, whether it was from Stormont or from Westminster. What was the vibe amongst clients? I mean, presumably very negative. Claire?
Yeah, it was very negative, and as I said there, it was almost as if these guys were closing their business for the last time. I remember one of my clients going onto Facebook and recording a video, and she was just in tears. And I think that was down to the fact that how were businesses going to pay their rent? How were they going to pay their fixed costs? And no, at that stage, no 10K relief for the rates, no furlough or anything. So it really was a state of panic. And somebody put it, I'm trying to think who it was, but somebody in the accountancy profession, I was speaking to them, and they said, you know what, at this stage, we're really looking after the health of these people's businesses. So doctors, etc., the NHS are looking after the health of people and their own medical health, but we are going to be really busy here with looking after the health of businesses. And it's been so true. We have had probably our busiest 3 months yet. Not in terms of fees, I don't mean that, just in terms of speaking to clients every single day, maybe twice a day, getting new legislation updates out there. It's just been incredible, but we have loved it, because you've really got to build that relationship with clients, I think, which is what we love. All of us love that.
Yeah.
And it's been really nice to support them the whole way. And it's nice to see businesses now starting to come out the other side. And in a way, whenever you were stuck in that bubble for a few months, I did wonder myself, is this ever coming to an end? Will this ever go back to normal? And it's nice now to start to see that it's going back to normality in some sense, which is good.
Yeah. Martin, how are you guys coping with that sort of the initial shell shock of clients starting to close their businesses or not knowing what to do, and you were the guy that they were ringing?
Yeah, it's funny. The phone started ringing one morning about 8 o'clock and rang all day. You came off one call and you were on to the next, you were on to the next, and you're on to the next. And basically it was because businesses wanted to prepare, they wanted to do what was right, they wanted to secure their position, and they didn't know. Or at least if they did know some of the things that they should do, such as reviewing their cash flow and doing forecasts, they just wanted a capable and competent voice to repeat that back to them and to have the conversation. Mm. And there was nothing, you're absolutely right, for a short while there was nothing. The very first thing that I remember coming out was the government-backed loan guarantee scheme, which was an 80% scheme, which loaned up to £250,000, which sounded good until clients started going to the banks and nobody was getting that money. Yeah. It just was a fiction. It really wasn't for the likes of you or me. That it was a funny sort of thing. And when I was talking to clients, I was basically saying to them, what's the simplest thing you can tell a client in a situation where you don't know what the future is? How much money do you have now? And what's your burn rate? When are you going to run out? And you need to plan now for the lowest point. So while you've still got money in the bank, where you've still got a good credit, where you've still got some sort of, if there is still a revenue or some sort of way to negotiate with the bank, get that done now. Get your overdraft facility, get your, I was saying at the time the government-backed loan guarantee scheme, but I didn't know at that time that nobody was going to get it. And by the time it didn't take very long for clients to start coming back. It was in about 3 or 4 days, clients were coming back and saying, I tried for that loan, but I didn't get it. What do I do now? And then it was a hard conversation about, do you know what you do? You take every pound and you hold on to it like it's your last, and you do more homework and you do more work now than you've ever done before, because until the dust settles, you have no idea what this is going to be like, not just in 3 months, but in 18 months.
Yeah.
and that's the sort of timing we're thinking of.
And potentially a lot more work just to stand still, just to keep the lights on and the doors open.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just we touched on government support. I tried to put down a bit of a list of everything that came out that we had to very quickly get our heads around, understand, and recite back to clients where applicable. And when you list it all out, so we had the rates holidays in Northern Ireland, whether it was the 3 months extended before and then 12 months for certain sectors. The small business grants at £10,000, the £25,000 grants for the certain sectors, furlough, self-employed income support scheme, the hardship fund, deferral of VAT, deferral of payments on accounts, C-bills, bounce back loans. I think that's all I've got. I've probably missed some there. That was just a quick sort of couple of minutes throwing stuff together. And this was coming out every day.
Feeling?
Like it was something new, or some, furlough was announced, and then it was a couple of days of waiting to find out the detail, and then you'd get some detail, and then people would come back with loads of questions about it, and then a few days later you'd have the answers to the questions. The furlough guidance went from sort of 10 paragraphs to 50, in the space of a few weeks, as people started to go, what about maternity pay? What about if you're taking holidays whilst in furlough? What if, all these sorts of random things. Just a curiosity question as much as anything. How are you guys getting that information out to clients? Martin?
Well, initially it was just by telephone. People would ring up and we'd answer their questions. So we were basically reading the stuff in the morning and then talking about it in the afternoon, or reading the stuff the night before and talking about it that morning, like as if we were experts. Now, obviously we explained this is new to everybody and we're making our best assessment of what we can. But then it very quickly became, there was one thing, and this is one of the big changes I don't think it's necessarily going to fit back in to the way it came out. This cork's not going back in the bottle. And that is the amount of time we saved by not having to go to client meetings, networking events, or speaking at conferences. All that stuff could now be done, even going to the office in Belfast. So we have an office in Belfast. I haven't been in it. I haven't sat at my desk in my office in Belfast for 3 weeks. I haven't done a pick and work in it. We're just go down and get a meal and come back again and check for stuff and all the rest. Just all that travel disappeared. And that meant that I think we were estimating that we were saved about 15 hours a week on travel and going to meetings and, waiting on people being late and all this type of stuff. That doesn't happen anymore. So what we've done is we've reinvested that time in relation to the resources that we're putting onto the Gilchrist & Co website. So we updated our website. When I say updated, it's not a very fancy website. I made it myself. It's sort of homemade. But into that, we put a news feature. And all the news I was reading that I thought was appropriate or relevant to my audience, professionals in independent practice and small businesses, if I read it and felt it was worthy of reading again or sharing with someone else, I put it onto my webpage and then shared it out across my social media. And I was surprised by how appreciative people were of that, because I wasn't really doing anything apart from doing my proper homework that is expected of you as a professional service provider. It's our job to know this stuff. But because I was sharing it out, people were going and the number of people came back and said, look, thanks very much, Martin. Really appreciate you doing that. It's a great job. And I'm sure you guys are getting the same, because Claire, I've seen the videos and the info, whatever, they're not commercials, but the great things, particularly in relation to the SEISS one, which I shared out myself to friends and family as an example of how to do this. But I'm sure you guys must be getting the same feedback.
Yeah, I think I suppose would you say your main platform's Instagram? We'll clarify that for us.
Would I say it's the main one? It's probably the one I use most frequently, and it's easiest to get the word out on. So if I talk about where we get all our new clients from, it's predominantly Instagram, believe it or not. So yes, I find it easy just to click on the stories, record a really quick video, and the word's out. Now your messages then go crazy, because they're like, I know that announcement's only out, but what does that mean for me? And they're complete strangers, which is good to get that interaction. So yeah, we got the word out on Instagram stories. We also have quite a good CRM system that we use called Senta. So we can automatically text all of our clients by just putting one text in, sending it to all our clients, just with emails as well. So during that time, actually, we thought, how can we get the word out because not all of our clients are on Instagram, and that's where I would use video most. And I thought, how can we get the word out to our clients in this way? So we started a private Facebook group within a couple of weeks really of lockdown, and that's been a real help to clients. I've had so many people get in touch to say thank you so much for starting this Facebook group, because there's a certain aspect of confidentiality in there, because they all know they're clients of ours, and it's actually become now that they're starting to refer business to each other because the whole COVID-19 has settled a wee bit. But yeah, just really an accumulation of everything. Instagram, Facebook, private Facebook groups. We actually sent a greeting card to every single one of our clients just to say, we're all in this together. We're here if you need us, you know, please just lift the phone. So all of those wee things added together, I think, has been good for clients to know that we're not going to bombard them, but we're absolutely here for them if we need them.
Yeah,
if they need us.
The other way about, they're gonna bombard you. I know it didn't matter what platform I used, whether it was Facebook or Instagram, people were just contacting you whatever way they could contact you. Something they did do, which was quite useful, I thought, there's a feature on WhatsApp that you can do a broadcast list. So it's not like a group chat. It's basically you say, send this message to all these people separately. So I started putting clients into groups like self-employed or employers or things like that. So if something came out about furlough, you could write one message and send it to 50 employers. Do it.
Just taking a wee note of that there.
Apart from that, what I was doing was
great idea.
Copy who else needs to read this down through the list and send it, you know. We also have had a group with the Chamber of Commerce, which is just all the local businesses. So I was just pushing information in there. There was just a real appetite for sound information that you could trust. You know, people were hearing all sorts about, you know, I'll be able to get furlough on that. But, you know, when you read into the detail of it, well, you weren't on the payroll at this date, so you're not going to get it. So I think people were kind of seeking out accountants and professionals in that way as the translator of the guidance to an extent. You know, there was definitely an appetite for, you know, that bit of certainty. That's all people are ever looking for, is clarity and a bit of certainty around what's happening, you know.
I think what I found as well was that, do you know, the way previously you would have maybe prepared yourself for a video, or, you know, maybe had something written in front of you to do it. It was just really raw. It was just like, the guidance is out, get it out, let people know about it. It doesn't matter if you're standing in your kitchen, it doesn't matter. People just needed the info. And I think that's really been good, how it's changed things, that you don't have to be, you do have to be professional, but you don't have to have a professional demeanor all of the time anymore.
Yeah, I think one of the things I took up with that was the idea of these Monday night business conversations that I started doing after lockdown started. So I wasn't able to get out there and see, it wasn't just about seeing clients or suppliers, it's about the whole network of people that you have around you as a small business. So you two guys would be in my network. You know, Claire, we have met face to face before. Adrian, we've only ever met online, but you're still part of that network. But how do you stay connected with people that you would have normally met face to face if you're not there? And what I found was that just sitting down, setting aside from 8 until 9 p.m. on a Monday night to have a conversation with a couple of people from business kept that connection. And it wasn't even the connection with just the two people you were chatting to. It was the people that knew them, and the people that knew you got to know people that you knew. So you're almost introducing businesses to each other without even trying. And we're not talking about anything too serious. Like, COVID hasn't really been mentioned. We're just talking about business in general. It's almost like a break from COVID.
Yeah.
so it is for we just remembering what life was like before COVID and having wee chats about other stuff, you know. So
it did get to saturation point, you know, for a while. It was a bit like Brexit. Everybody was watching every single thing that was happening. And then eventually it was kind of like, right, unless there's something new coming out, I'm turning off the news. I'm just going to, you know, unless there's something the clients need to know about, you know, I'm not going to just get myself totally absorbed in this, because it you know, as with Brexit, it just started going around in circles almost. You know, it was just a real negative news cycle for a lot of the time. You know, so from the government.
Adrian, sorry, just before you go on there, just in case, I'm not sure if that's the case or not. I'm noticing on my news feed that I'm seeing questions and people coming on and all that type of stuff. Can you see that from your side? Do you want to leave the questions or introductions to the end, or what way would you like to do that?
They're kind of, some of the questions are in the layout anyway. So I think James Perry must be reading my notes.
Very good.
He probably wrote the notes, did he?
We'll come back to them.
Okay, excellent. Okay.
So in terms of, and I suppose focusing on the clients in that period up to now, what sectors do you think of that you've been dealing with have been the hardest hit, and which ones, without naming clients or anything like that, but any examples of clients that have really done their best to adapt and thrive and give themselves a real good chance now when things do start to reopen? What about you, Claire? Keep forgetting to direct questions.
I know. A couple of clients spring to mind. So there's probably been a good maybe 50% of our clients who go unaffected at the minute. But the thing about it is, will they remain that way? Even ourselves as accountants, we're okay at the minute, but what's going to happen in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, whenever these businesses maybe can't take it anymore and they're going to have to close their doors, that's going to have an impact on us. So for the foreseeable, we have clients in financial services who are doing really well, the likes of pension advisors, mortgage advisors, they're all doing really well. Website designers doing really well, graphic designers, branding specialists, all really doing great stuff. And I think that's because people now have the time to go, oh, I always wanted to get the website done, or I always wanted to have for example, I went to one of our clients recently and said, will you design us an intro for a video just to drop in if we ever record a video? So things like that you don't get the time to do. So all those guys are doing great. People who aren't doing so great are obviously restaurants, retail. I've had a couple of clients close their doors already, which is very unfortunate. Really, those ones who have been forced to closure by the government are the ones that are struggling. But we've seen incredible innovation, I think, and I'm sure you'll agree that, like with our clients, I spent about an hour and a half on the phone to one of our clients maybe a couple of months ago on a Saturday, just going through how can we actually get some income through the door. So this was a client who has, how can I explain it? A coach that she does educational sensory events for autistic kids, for birthday parties, and obviously that's all driven by social distancing. She can't do that, and she's taking her services online. She's doing boredom buster packs for kids. She's delivering those around the country. She's doing slime kits. Just incredible things, just outside of the box thinking. I have another client who's a personal stylist, and she would have done lots of one-to-one shopping experiences, day trips down to Dublin for shopping, etc. And she's taken everything online, and it's so lovely to watch that people have just turned their business around. I have a client actually who owns a few restaurants, and she literally got her collection and delivery set up with an online ordering system in about 24 hours. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, how did you manage that? But you know what? Whenever your back's against the wall, it's amazing what you will do to help your business to survive. But I think, like, I don't know if you've joined that Northern Ireland business group. I'm sure you have on Facebook. And I just think the resilience of businesses in Northern Ireland is incredible. Like, really, they're really weathering the storm. They're doing what they can just to get wee bits of income in the door, and that's really gonna stand to them, I think.
Yeah, I think I've told this story before, but back in January, I sat with a new client who was a personal trainer, and as I sort of try to get round to with everybody is, look, what's the plan? What's the plan for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years time? What do you want to be doing? When you're 45, are you still looking to be traipsing down to the gym, waiting on clients and all the rest? Or, as a personal trainer, you tend to have a bit of a shorter lifespan in that career before you have to pivot and move. So we had the conversation, and she said, look, I haven't got a clue what I want to be doing in 10 years time or 20 years time. But she said, in 5 years time, I would really like to be doing a lot more of my stuff online. Right? 3 months later, she was there. She was forced there because the gym closed.
Yeah.
But she done it. She's doing sessions. She's maybe 5-6 personal training sessions a day through Skype or Zoom or whatever it is. and she's achieved it. COVID-19 has been the biggest driver of digital change in businesses ever. Not any CEO, not any CFO, not any, geek who wanted to, digitally revolutionize their business. This disease has done it, for better or worse. And there's going to be a lot of businesses now that aren't going to want to go back. I have clients there that are questioning why they're paying big money on rent when they've been working remotely for 3 months now and everything's been as good, if not better. Martin, what about your clients? How are they getting through? You have a lot of creatives, and I know there's no work there really at the minute, and it's
when the pubs closed, musicians were in trouble right away, because that's pubs and clubs and venues are where musicians play. So for people going out and playing music, that definitely stopped, but there has been a lot of innovation in around that. So for example, people teaching drums, one of our clients has moved to teaching drumming online, which I would imagine be a lot of fun for the neighbours and whatnot. But you hear some marvelous stories. So one of the Monday night conversations was with a business called The Big Giraffe, and The Big Giraffe is a social media marketing agency. Two fellas, Kel Dixon, who founded it a number of years ago, and his new partner, Adrian Harrison. And they told a wonderful story about a lady they had worked with, and over the course of the last 3 months, her sales had gone from a small amount of sales to £80,000 in the last month of that 3 month period. And what her business essentially was videos on how to put on nail polish and makeup. Now, I can understand the benefit of that. You're stuck at home and, there's no beauticians to go to and all the rest, and people still want to look good. I still want to look good, and there's how do you do that stuff? But the amount of potential that they uncovered in regard to that was what amazed me, because this wasn't somebody in America or some, one of these famous people that you see online that just happen to be lucky with YouTube. This is someone from here. Someone that you could bump into the street and say hello to, that has had this amazing success. Yes, it was down to the technology. Yes, it was down to luck, but it just shows you the innovation that comes out of COVID. But in the real world, so if we move away from Digstone, if you think of delivery drivers who are running about making all those deliveries, a lot of them are self-employed. And we had one of those guys. He started off in business, something else, he went across to delivery driving. And it has been a gold rush for him. An absolute gold rush, because the roads were empty and everybody was ordering online. So he has suddenly gone from maybe £25,000 a year to this year's going to be well in excess of £80,000 or £90,000. There's VAT registration, there's there's a limited company, there's all this stuff, and then you're thinking, will this last again until next year? Have our habits really changed when the roads get busier? So it's thrown up a whole lot of change, for want of a better word, in what were traditionally normal businesses. And even now today, look at us sitting here, the three of us, three accountants on a sunny, what day is it? Is it Wednesday? I don't even know what day it is anymore. On a sunny Wednesday afternoon at 7:30 in the evening, sitting talking online to an audience.
Yeah. And having an audience that's willing to tune in and listen to three accountants as well. That's the real change in style.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Just what you were saying about musicians there, one that I noticed, she's not a client, but in a former life I was a musician as well. And a girl that I know who is a singer-songwriter and would have always performed in pubs has now turned to busking on Facebook. So she just goes on Facebook and plays songs, and there's a link there, and you can go on and pay on PayPal and donate a few quid, So just things like that. I mean, there is immense opportunity out there, and I think for some business models, they're going to have to be addressed. They're going to have to be looked at now. Your sister Claire, I think, has opened a coffee shop, has she? Just a few months back. Some coffee
November,
some coffee shops now are looking. So I have a few clients that remained open throughout the whole thing, maybe on reduced hours or on reduced days. Some of them are making more money now than they were before, and the reason being is that they're selling coffee and tray bakes at a high margin with a reduced staff. So one, maybe two staff instead of 10 or 15 if you're doing table service. The kitchen's closed, and they're people are just in constantly coffee, and you're not having to use food as the gateway drug, as I always call it, to get people in to sell them coffee. So it's going to be interesting to see how, when things start opening up again, even if we are reduced to 1 meter social distancing, if that model can return back to what it was. And there's definitely opportunity, I think, there for businesses to reset and go, right, we're not going to go back to that old model. We're going to build on top of what we currently are doing, this restricted product offering. And I suppose from the bottom up, make the business profitable, going into reopening. Just talking about reopening then, if you're hairdresser clients, have we many of them? Yeah, I have quite a few. So I think they were actually one of the harder hit ones as well. A lot of them done very well, turning to social media and e-commerce as well. So we've got coffee shops reopening from the 3rd of July, hairdressers from the 6th, hotels, I think the 26th, is it? What's the feeling you're getting, or the feedback you're getting from clients in terms of reopening? Is it generally all very positive, or are people very cautious and just going to take it as it comes and maybe phase into it a little bit? Claire, we'll start with you.
Yeah, just because you're on the topic of restaurants there, we have a number of kind of restaurant industry clients, whether that be food vans, licensed restaurants and bars, or cafes, and two of which actually are family-run businesses in my own family, so I have a particular interest in it, I suppose. But for one of those businesses, we've definitely been phasing things in. So around about end of April, they started to do collection and delivery service of their food, and then about 4 weeks after that, they started to do takeaway coffee and tray bakes only at the weekend. And just from today, actually, they are starting to open from 10:30 to 3, just for takeaway coffee again, just to see who actually comes through the door. It's more of a test, really, because if you bring those staff off furlough, you need to cover that cost, and that, I think, timing is key in all of this. And it's about getting it right in terms of, you need to have enough people there to provide a good enough service. But if you have too many there, there's no point in you opening the doors. So that's what we're kind of advising all of our clients, to tread very carefully. Don't feel like you need to copy your competitors, because one of my clients actually phoned and said, but my competitor's opening and they're doing sandwiches and they're doing takeaway pizzas and takeaway meals. And I said, stop looking at your competitor. Does your competitor even know what it's costing them to open? Possibly not. Maybe they're losing a fortune of money and they don't even know. So I think it's about staying in your lane, staying focused on what you're going to do, and try to at least break even on it, and build it up gradually, just so that it can be measured really, really accurately and closely. So that on the whole, that's really the advice that we are giving, is to tread carefully, do it gradually, and know your figures as you're doing so.
I think for the next 6 months, businesses need to get their head around the fact that there's no such thing as competitors. You have to do your own thing and you have to feel it out yourself, because I think going in too hard and too fast is the quickest way to get your doors closed again. Especially with those coffee shops things, what I've found is there's a huge nostalgia. Maybe nostalgia is not the right word, but there's a huge nostalgia for, my favorite coffee shop. I want to get back there. People will go back when it reopens. It doesn't matter if the one down the street opens first. Yeah, they might go there on the Thursday, but if you're open the Friday, they'll come and they'll see you, and there is definitely here, maybe just Warren Point's a very small town, but we've definitely found that sort of that community spirit, if you like, has just been there. And in the first instance, that was always coming from the businesses. So the local supermarkets here, from the first day of lockdown, were doing free delivery, no matter the size of the order, and just to get stuff into houses for people that were vulnerable, people that were old, people that lived alone, and things like that. So I think that we're going to see that on the exit as well. We're going to slightly reword the question for you, Martin, and we're just going to let Mr. James Perry ask it there. You can see it on the screen. What is the biggest issue for your clients coming out of lockdown?
It depends on the client. It really does. If you're a hairdresser, your problem is going to be capacity. You know, there's a massive pent-up demand of people who are getting their bookings in now for that haircut that they've been waiting for 3 months. You know, I'm lucky. Michelle, with a pair of shears and a brush, is able to keep my hair short, and the rest, hair gel does the rest. But not everybody has that luxury, you know, and there's a lot of work to be done. So, and they have a problem. How do they get the work done? How do they meet the demand? And if they don't meet the demand, if you have a hairdresser you've been going to for 5 years and they know your name and you're used to your cup of tea, you're not getting your cup of tea anymore. That's gone. You're going in, you're getting your cup. Apparently, they're not even allowed to do chit chat anymore. How do you meet the expectations of those people? If you're a dentist, so we have a number of dentists that are on our books. They're only allowed to open for urgent work, and they're only allowed to do so many clients, patients in a day for safety reasons, because of the nature of the fact that drilling and all the rest spreads, you know, stuff from your mouth all over the place, and they have to have drastic cleaning between every individual patient. And then you've got the likes. What do they do? How do they manage expectations? But then you're going to have other businesses that are bombing along now that are sort of thinking, you know what? Actually, this is an opportunity for us. Yeah. And the risk that they have is overtrading. And overtrading is something that could potentially happen to most of us. You see an opportunity, you take the investment, you take on the work, you build up the commitments. And I can remember when we started our practice, we probably overtraded. We didn't realize how much work we could take on and how quickly we were going to take it on. All of a sudden, we had this massive commitment of work that we had to do. And instead of being this livelihood practice that we were hoping to build, that would be all about client relationships and stuff, we were working till like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, 9 days a week. Yeah. Until we caught ourselves on and said, right, let's step back here a wee bit. And, you know, I think we've all been there to some extent. We'll all be there in January anyway. So there's the overtrading issue. So it really depends where you are. But there's not one single business that I'm aware of that isn't in need of a strategy or planning coming out of this. They need to take time to step back and literally think hard about what their priorities are, about what their resources are, about what their commitments are, and how they manage that, because it's all changed. It's all different now.
I think it's really tempting as well. Whenever you get the go-ahead from the government that you can open on a specific day, that you feel the need to open on that day. And just what you said there, Martin, just if you don't feel like you're ready, if you don't feel you have the safety equipment in place, if you don't feel your staff are trained sufficiently, even if you don't know maybe your costs, something like that, know it before you open. Even if it takes a day or two extra, it's better to be prepared than to go into it blind and make a mess of it, or have a customer complaint because you don't have enough health and safety equipment or whatever it is. But I think don't automatically feel the need to jump on that date.
Yeah, I think business, or strictly business reasons aside, there's still a virus out there. There's still a potential for people to get very sick from it. And if you're going to be bringing people into your premises, you need to be comfortable that they're going to be safe, you're going to be safe, and your staff are going to be safe. So I think that has to, I know we've been talking about getting business open, making money again, getting people back from furlough, but first and foremost, all of this has to be the absolute safety of the public, whether that's your staff or your customers, you know. When you say that, I have a couple of clients that are beauticians mainly, who are doing that. They're just going to take their time, and they're not going to be open on the 6th. They're going to be a few days after that, but they're taking their time, getting their diary book filled up, and piecing things together. And when they're ready, they'll be ready to go then. What about for yourselves, guys? What's the plan for the practice? I presume everybody's working remotely at the minute. Mm-hmm. So have you guys any sort of firm dates for come back to the office, asking staff to come back, or is it very much sort of wait and see, Martin?
Again, everything's changed for us. We haven't worked this much from home since we got an office more than 10 years ago. So this has been quite an experience for us. And the nature of all our communications with clients now, which is telephone, Skype, Zoom, has worked really well. The clients seem to appreciate it. We're saving a lot of time and are a lot more efficient. And what that extra time gives us to do, because we're not trying to grow a practice with 300 clients, that's enough for what me and Michelle need at this particular time. So we need to maintain that client base. But what we want to do is improve the service that we provide to the clients we have, become more valuable to the existing clients. And one of the ways we've done that is by the engagement that we're doing through our redeveloped website at Gilchrist & Co. and our social media interaction. So I'm certainly using things like, I was never a LinkedIn user, not because I don't think of LinkedIn or don't think it's a great resource. It's just I didn't have the time, and now I'm using that additional time that we're not traveling and sitting waiting for people to turn up at meetings and all that type of stuff. That's been reinvested into trying to share information, knowledge, events, doing stuff like this, having conversations on the Monday Night Conversation, and engaging with people in a way that we maybe didn't have an opportunity before. That will continue. I don't see this stopping. This is another cork that isn't going back into another bottle. And to be honest, I quite like it.
Yeah. Are you in TikTok yet?
I went on to it. It scared me. I came back off again. The very first TikTok I think I seen was two guys fighting on the street. Oh. And then the next one I seen was some girl doing this dance.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't really see where I fit into this.
Yeah.
And I came off it again. So it's been delayed. It was on my phone for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It is. Maybe I'm just too old. But you young ones, it's for you young ones. It's not for old people like me.
It's an interesting one. It's one that I've started to see professionals start to use. So it's, I think the limit is 1 minute. So you can just jump on very quickly, put it 1 minute. Yeah, here's 5 things to help you save tax. Boom, and away. Something to think about, Martin, when you're stuck at home and not doing the traveling. How many hours did you say you're saving a week? 15.
15, yeah.
Oh,
easily. Like if you think about it, you go out for a meeting in the morning in town.
Yeah.
It takes you 15 minutes to get the paperwork together, at least half an hour to travel in. You're sitting there for a while, another half hour to come out, and you maybe do a wee message on the way up the road while you're doing that. You call in or you speak to someone or something else. So you're losing every meeting. Now, we obviously schedule 2 or 3 meetings in a row to save that time.
Yeah.
But every time you book a meeting for the morning, you've lost the whole morning.
Yeah.
We're not losing those mornings or those afternoons anymore. That's us time at our desks and fighting a good fight.
Doing the grind. What about you, Claire? What's what's Cartmill Stewart's plans then? Are you back to office anytime soon, or keep going with the remote working and how you are operating at the minute?
I think I'm having major internet problems. Can you hear me okay? Or am I,
yeah. No, we can hear
dropping
you.
out?
We can hear you, yeah. Hear you and see you. Did you get the question? No? We can hear you.
Go for it again there, Adrian.
Can you hear me now? Yeah? No? Hold on. Let me see. I don't know what to do now. I'll tell you what, while we try and sort something out.
Here you now. Go for it now.
Oh, there we go. You're back now. We were about to kick you out. No? Gone? Let me see. I'll tell you
if we keep. How much longer is left, Adrian? Because we could do it for another while, see if our internet connection comes up. So if you have many more questions to ask, we could.
I suppose we'll ask you, and I'll maybe message Claire while we'll try and get her back on here. The next 3 months and the next 12 months, so sort of 2 distinct periods of time. One, ramping things up to get businesses back open and back to some sort of level of normality. And then something that I'm quite interested in, that in 12 months' time, do we still have a hangover?
Mm-hmm.
What are your
I think we do. From an accountant's perspective, there's an awful lot of work coming down the line. So there's the opportunity to defer tax. And we have already seen a massive uptake of the non-payment of the tax in the last periods up until the end of this month, effectively. And that VAT tax hasn't gone away. It will have to be paid at some stage. And we're going to have to keep on top of our clients, or not keep on top of them, and be there for our clients to help them through that process. And then at the end of July now, we've got the first payment on account coming up. And people may well be wanting to negotiate on that, a time to pay or a deferment or something on that. And then we're looking at the tax year end. HMRC already seems to be in a kerfuffle. One of the most recent things I've seen coming in late are UTRs for new businesses that have been set up. Now, you would normally expect a UTR letter to come out to the client within about 5 days. I've seen us waiting 15 days on one. And what that does is it preempts the issue of what's going to happen further down the line as the whole tax system gets busier and busier with the tax year end. So that's what we're planning for over the next 3 months. We're escalating and we're advancing our normal call-up periods. So we would normally start really pushing for clients to get self-assessment tax return information into us from about August time. That's starting to happen now. Basically, we're making the connections with our clients now to explain the situation with HMRC, the considerable additional work that's going to be done and needed, and our capacity in order to do that. So next 3 months is planning for what happens at the tax year end. The next 12 months, I don't think we're in a position to start planning for that yet, because we don't really know what the government's going to do next, and if COVID hits. If we have a second wave and everything is locked down again, that completely changes the ballgame. Generally speaking, what we're doing is we are doing what we would do in any recession, watching cash and keeping tight control of credit control, maintaining resources in place to help those clients that are not in difficulties through no fault of their own. You know, we're already seeing our normal payments, length of period. So obviously we all keep a track of length of time to pay bills, and we're actually seeing that's pushed up now above 40 days for the first time in a long time. So it's the first time since we monitored it. So our credit control is having to reflect the new world we're in. But it's staying on top of that and communicating with clients about we are there to help, but at the same time, you know, we're not a bank.
Yeah,
and we have only so much flexibility we can have. So in relation to 12-month planning, I think it's what do you normally do in a recession? You know, hunker down to what you know and just play it through until we actually get some sort of dust settling on the whole situation. Yeah.
Claire, you're back with us. Can you hear us now?
Sorry about that, guys. I can hear you perfectly now.
So the question for you was, what is Cartmill Stewart's plans, I suppose, for the next couple of months? Are you heading back to the office, or just continue and maybe even ramp up the remote working?
Yeah, so as I said, we have a team of 5 at the minute. We have one on furlough because we had just employed him start of March as a trainee. So it's probably a wee bit more difficult to train a trainee on the likes of Zoom. It's easier when you're sitting face to face with someone. But we've all been working from home. Efficiency has definitely been so much better. Not just because of the travel time, but just because, well, not in my case, but there's been lack of interruption. So I actually had an appraisal with one of my staff on Monday afternoon, and I said, how are you getting on with home working? And she absolutely loves it. So what we're looking at is probably phasing back to the office come the 1st of August, but we will maintain home working probably for most of the time. So we'll get us all together in the office maybe once or twice a week just to maintain that team spirit and communication, and we'll work from home the rest of the time. It's the way forward, I think. If efficiency is better, you know, it obviously depends on you having a really good team and being able to trust that team and being able to manage the tasks that the staff are completing, etc. But with a good tight team and with a good system in place there to be able to manage deadlines. So we definitely see it as it's going to be part of our strategy moving forward. We're not gonna cut that out anymore. Whereas a year ago, you know, it seemed so much more essential to have an office, but we will still do face-to-face meetings in the future, but I feel like that's going to be reduced as well.
Yeah, I think at a minimum, I think any accountancy practice or any business now that's had to pivot to that work from home model, they can come back, and it's always an option. You know, some would put it as a perk of employment, where, you know, we can facilitate home working, but it's always there. You know, just if as an option for staff if they don't want to. The way I'm sort of proposing to do it here is July do what you like. If you want to come into the office, come into the office. If you want to work from home, work from home. August, come back. But again, it's always the plan B. Everyone's got a laptop. They can remote onto the server. There's nothing that they'll be doing without if they have a half-decent internet connection at home. And it's the same thing. A lot of the time, it's just come to the office as a place for people to give you files and bits of paper, and sit down and have a meeting. But again, even that's a little bit up in the air. Claire, back to you. Sorry, because before we got cut off, Martin kind of took the wheel there whilst we were sorting that out.
Thank God you came back, Claire. I was all by myself just talking and running out of things to say.
Left and come back in an hour and you'd still be talking.
My heart was going. My face was going all red.
What the next 3 months for businesses, and then as distinct from that, the next, in 12 months' time, when I kind of have this feeling that we're still going to have a bit of a hangover in 12 months' time. So the next 3 months is reopening and try to get back to normal. What's your view for clients that you have and business in general in those two time periods? What do you see happening? What's your fears?
Yeah. It's not really, it is a fear for my clients, but I don't see any other way out of this other than redundancies at some point for quite a lot of clients. And that's because furlough's been great. It's definitely helped to shoulder a lot of this financial burden. But the problem is coming out of that. I mean, is it from the 1st of July that employers will start to shoulder some of that furlough cost, your employer's national insurance, your pension contributions? So I think when that starts to hit, there's going to be redundancies in the next few months. I think it's inevitable. And I feel that for some clients, they're going to feel that's a backward step. So it's about trying to advise them that actually this is about trying to streamline the business as well. We had a Zoom live last Wednesday, and I was on with a girl I know, Rachel Fowler, who's an insolvency practitioner, and that's exactly what she was talking about. This is the opportunity now to completely streamline your business, to weed out all of those extra resources that you never really needed in the first place. As blunt as that sounds, but to make your business as profitable as it can be, take out the bad parts of your business and ramp up the good parts. And if that means having to make staff redundant, then unfortunately that's part of the process. We have to keep our clients' best interests at heart too. Then further into the future, my concern would mostly be things like the bounce back loan. That's not going to hit until kind of May, June next year when those repayments start. And that's going to be a second hit for a business, I think. Whenever you have to start paying those loans back, you're going to be taxed on your grants then at that stage. So it's really about communication, I think, with the clients to say, here's what's coming down the line. You're not out of the woods yet. As bad as that sounds, I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm just trying to be real about it all. And as you've said, Martin, I caught a wee bit of it. I know us accountants are always going on about the finances and knowing your numbers and looking after your debtors and not letting those get out of control. But it really is key at this time. And I actually think for a lot of clients at the minute, they're quite secure because they've got their self-employment grant, they've got their 10K or their 25K, and they're probably feeling quite positive about the future. But my concern is probably the longer term, maybe 6, 9, 12 months down the line when this is really going to start to hit hard.
Yeah, I think all of the government support, if you wanted to put a negative slant on it, if you were a business in trouble before, it's just a stay of execution. It's funded you through this. It's kept your staff on the payroll. It's kept paying them. You've deferred all your tax further down the line. And yeah, that's when it's going to start to bite. Even if you open up again and if you change nothing, if you keep the bad habits, if you keep selling products at a terrible margin or you're overpaying staff, all the rest, sooner or later that'll catch up, and it's when you have to repay the loans, pay the tax, all the rest. So just to sum up, generally a very bleak outlook for everybody then, yeah? Is that so?
I don't think it's all bleak. I think it's been a real opportunity for even us as accountants to set ourselves apart from others. Like I got a couple of new clients recently because their own accountants had furloughed themselves and were nowhere to be seen. And I just think,
Seriously?
okay, this is the most, yeah, seriously. And this is a really critical time for people, that people need their accountants at this time. So I think for us who are very proactive, we're visible, we're out there, we're trying to give as much info as we can. You know, that's what people need at this time, for sure.
Yeah.
I think you have to forget about where you were. You know, you start from now. If you were starting your business, remember when you started your business, how exciting that was? You had no clients, you maybe didn't have the capital reserves you have now, you certainly hadn't got all the experience and the brickbats that you have all acquired over the years since then. And we had hope. We all had hope and ambition and drive. That's what you need to take to your business now, because this isn't the end of the world. You know, this isn't the end, it's the start. And you need to take your vision, your business in that vision. Now, if it's the start of the end, that's, you know, it's the start of the end. You can start something else. You're not just going to go away and sit in a room for the rest of your life. Take this as an opportunity, yes, to review your business and all the rest, but take it as an opportunity to review yourself and what it is that you actually want to do, because you're not where you were this time last year. The plans that you had this time last year are gone. The world has changed. It literally has changed. People are working differently. People are going in different directions. The tax system's going to be different. The financing system's going to be different. And what you have to do is find your new place in that new world. And that's exciting, because it throws up opportunities that may never have existed before. Because everybody you're speaking to, it's like, and to use another analogy, remember when you went into university on your first day, and in the first day in university, you were lonely and scared and maybe didn't know anybody, particularly those people that go abroad. You're going into a completely new environment, but everybody else was like that. And what that environment does was a whole lot of new people in a new situation coming together is it enables you to start new relationships in a way that you could never do in the old system. In the old way, we were on tracks, we sort of knew where we were going, and we were following those along. Those tracks have come to an end. We're in the open prairie now. Go and make the best of it. That would be my overall theme for going forward.
Excellent. Guys, we're just over an hour there now. Have you any sort of, well, Martin, you've kind of given us your final thoughts. Claire, any final words of wisdom for businesses, whether they're, you know, just coming out of lockdown or they're still holding off, or just what's the general sort of nice, generic, cheery uppy advice that people are getting?
Or Briggy Darney. You use Briggy Darney.
Have I been really negative tonight? I didn't mean to be. General advice, don't panic, I guess. I've spoken to a lot of clients who feel this is the end, but we're not there yet. I think one of you said that a minute, we're not there yet. There's heaps and heaps of opportunity to reinvent your business just the way you wanted it to be. I have a client actually who had a number of staff, and throughout the whole lockdown, spending more time with her children, she decided, you know what, I'm not going to have any staff anymore. I want to do this for myself on my own, run the business completely, just, you know, myself, and she's delighted with that. So there's a lot of change of direction, I think, for the good as well. And people have really realized that there's more to life than work, and there's more to life than business as well. So in a way, I think we're coming out of this kinder people, just really with our priorities in a better place than they were. Like, I know whenever I started the business, and I started my own business in 2013, and it was so that I could work around the kids. And you probably know from my social media, it wasn't really that. It had become where I was never at home. I was running 5-6 days a week. I was working till 2 a.m. And really it was a far cry from what it was in the early days. So sometimes things like this help you to step back a wee bit and say, do you know what, I'm going to do things differently. I'm still going to get the work done, but I'm going to do it differently. And I'm a wee bit like you, Martin. I have had to cut out a lot of my running around the country, going to events, speaking at events, just to be seen half the time, really, if I'm being truthful about it. And really, there's very little benefit in it all. So I've certainly prioritized my time as well, and realized, yeah, it is good fun, but I think you realise that some of it is not really needed, and certainly for me going forward, I'll probably reassess that a wee bit. So if you see me out and about, don't shout at me, but yeah.
Super. Yeah, look, I suppose my part in wisdom, if I have any, would echo a lot of that. Something we do with clients from day one, and it's kind of getting cliched now, me saying this, but effectively we always try to help clients reverse engineer their own happiness. So what do you want to achieve? Whether that's, I want £1 million business, or I want to work 3 days a week, and we tailor the advice to suit those ends. I think everybody needs to have the honest conversation with themselves of what they want to be doing in 5, 10, 20 years time, and what's ultimately going to make them happy, and decide now how to get there from where they are now. There are people locally now that have closed their businesses. And I can think of 3 hairdressers that aren't going back. They're going to do it from the house because they don't want to have the staff, the premises, the rent, the rates, the headache with it all. But interestingly, that's now given the opportunity for 3 or 4 more new hairdressers to now open new businesses in those vacant premises. So it's all cyclical. And my friend David Crozier had said this in a webinar we did recently about, he talked about people potentially thinking about retiring. It can be a very good thing, because if you retire, you're opening up a job opportunity for someone else that might never get it. Someone new coming out of college that's unemployed. So yes, I think it hasn't been the best few months for businesses in general. But there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and I think everyone will get there one way or the other. And if you don't, pick up the phone and ring a decent accountant that knows what they're talking about, and they'll give you a hand to help and guide. We're not really boring, intimidating people most of the time, but we can certainly help, guide a business towards what it needs, towards that bit of success. And sometimes it can just be playing devil's advocate, and sometimes it can just be being a sounding board or a shoulder to cry on, or someone to hold your hand. But yeah, I think absolutely. Guys, listen, thank you very much for buying into this half-baked idea that I came up with. I've enjoyed it. I hope everybody else that's watched it has enjoyed it as well.
Can I just take a moment before you finish off? I noticed that there's quite a few people who come along and joined the wall on this lovely sunny evening to watch us talk. And I think I would like just to give them a very quick shout out some of the names and let them know that I will follow up after this and say hi to them. But for some of I can't see everybody who's joined us, obviously, but people who have joined tonight on the wall, Melanie Coey, Brendan Heading, Paul McGreevy, James Perry, who did get a mention, and Peter Doak, Catherine Muldoon, who I was speaking to on Monday, Dina Murphy, Kevin Young, Richard Graham, who's another accountant, and he has a very good question about zero tax, but I'm not sure we have time for that this evening, Kieran Fitzpatrick, Darren Colway, and last, and just recently joined right at the end, but not least, Michelle Gilchrist.
What did you say, Claire, about just doing something to be seen?
Yeah, that's it. Keeping the glory.
In the nick of time.
Just in the nick of time. Pretend.
Guys, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how do they do so? Claire.
With me?
Yeah, I keep forgetting to tell people who the question for. Probably you, Claire.
Best places to get in touch with me is Instagram or on our Facebook page, or you can email me directly, Claire with an I at cartmillstewart.co.uk.
Super.
And Taran, I seen you watching, so I'm going to mention you now. Taran, lovely to see you.
And Martin, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do so?
Yeah, go to Google, type in Martin Gilchrist, and there will be a wealth of information. Most of it I don't want you to see, but it'll certainly be there. Just go to the Gilchrist & Co website, and all our contact details are on there. Martin Gilchrist, and that's Gil Christ.
There we go. There's Michelle just commenting there that she made it right at the very end. As well. Guys, I'm much the same. If you want to get in touch with me, it's Adrian Markey into Google, and you'll find me on Instagram and Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, everywhere. Guys, again, thank you very much. And if anyone has any questions, put them in the comments, and one of us will get back around it and then engage with you and give our opinion and try to answer it for you. Guys, again, thank you. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope everyone watching it has found it some way useful. It was just a bit of a general chit chat and talk about how this past few months have been with us. We hope it hasn't been too tough on you, and we hope the future is bright. Thank you.
Funny way of time.
Bye.